Lots and lots of information about the economy, lots of numbers as it relates to it, but I wanted to sort of lay context a little bit. Anna, you had shared some information based sort of on a personal context, but if for those people following the stock market, it's up 30% since March, but it's only flat for the year, okay? The economy is expected to be down about 3% this year, but up about 2% next year. Compare that to the numbers for, say, India and China, the emerging economies that are sort of in the forefront that may be at 7, 8, 9%. Anna, you mentioned unemployment at 9.4%, but also look at what commodities are doing. And as it relates to a commodity that all of us probably think about, which is oil, the price of oil went from 150 down to 40, and it's now at 70. So it's considered that, commodities have essentially bottomed out and they're slowly going to start to rise. But there are still lots and lots of unknown facts as it relates to the financial sector. Firstly, how are these toxic assets being valued? Because that has a direct impact on the stability of the financial base of all of the financial services companies. Consumer loans, and people immediately think about mortgages as a first stage, but think about home equity lines, credit cards. How are people going to be able to pay that? And what is the impact of those loans on the balance sheets of financial services companies? Again, long-term interest rates have been up dramatically just in the past week. Long-term treasuries have been, if you look at the year-to-date number, they are down about 25%. What that means is as interest rates rise, the value of long-term treasury bonds goes down. So that is something that sort of crept up and people haven't noticed it, but all of a sudden it sort of hit them last week. Unemployment impacts defaults, foreclosures, which then impacts the banks, which then impacts the overall economy. Because think about it, when your most valuable asset, typically your home, declines in value, that has a wealth effect on everything else that you do. We need to see stability in the housing prices. We're starting to see some stability there, but still not enough for it to be on solid ground. A couple of elements that are needed for continued recovery. Number one, demand for goods and services needs to pick up, which means that when you go to the store, not only do you sort of pick up and look at stuff, we need people to start buying again, and that's not happening as of yet. Companies need to hire, not fire. As you look at all the numbers of, what's happening with employment, we need to start to see that trend change where companies are stabilizing and leveling off to say, we're not letting go of any more people, because on that they will then build and start to hire again. And with that, consumer confidence will return, and again, people will be motivated to spend again. So expectations for the next 12 to 18 months. Number one, the government stimulus package is going to definitely create some demand in the short term. Think about all of the projects that it can fund, and as a result of that, the possible employment that can be created. That trickle-down effect, you will start to see that. However, the potential inflationary impact of that deficit spending is going to show up 12 to 18 months, and that's one of the reasons why commodity prices have bottomed up and oil has started to go up, and you're starting to see interest rates start to rise again. All those are indicators that you're going to see some inflation in the economy within the next 12 to 18 months.
Thank you, Subha. LeMay, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit because I know you keep your foot in the client side. I'm probably one of those people, like many in the audience, if they're fair and honest, that rip up their 401k statements when they come every month and other importance of bad news. What are your thoughts on the economy? What are you telling your clients? Does it sound like what Subha's saying? Do we have things to look forward to? Is it a little bit more dire?
I concur with Subha. I think it's a time of opportunity. We are working very closely with our clients to actually take advantage of some of the uncertainties and reinvent themselves, reinvent their business models, find new sources of revenue streams and the like. And coming along with that, as Subha mentioned, is going to be the need for new talent and reinvention of the talent that we have, which I think creates opportunities for everyone. Clearly, all companies are at a different space. Some are trying to survive. Others are on the offensive and trying to thrive and leapfrog their competition because they're so well positioned. And so all of that, I think, in terms of what that means for us individually, I would just simply say it's opportunities. So I would concur with Suba.
Thank you. Well, we know the economy has gone through turmoil, and inevitably it's had its impact on people. In Sunday's New York Times, in the Metropolitan section, an article about a Manhattan law firm that's gone through considerable downsizing stated the following: "People are shell-shocked," said one of the top partners at the firm. "If they survived the first 2 rounds, they're happy to have a job, but are still very nervous. And if their phones don't ring, if their work doesn't come back with a vengeance, they fear they aren't long for this world." Terry.
Why are you looking
Like
at me?
Citi, AIG has certainly had its share of shock. How does AIG compare to this article? Are people feeling a bit nervous? If the phone isn't ringing, are they worried? What's your observation of what's going on?
Absolutely. I think worried is the operative word. My sign here says AIU Holdings, and I was wondering if those of you in the audience even knew what that company was. Can I see by a show of hands who knew what AIU Holdings was? Okay. Oh, that's better.
A strong response.
Better than I thought. AIG, as you know, has hit the financial bottom as of September 15th. And because of the crises that we face, every entity is either going to be spun off, run off, or sold. So when people walk into the halls of our 6 buildings on the downtown campus, we really literally wonder, will we be here today? When I look up to call someone, if I'm working on an initiative, like for instance, my scholarship program, one of the panelists was telling me earlier that, do you know, and she gave me the name of a person, and I just happened to have met with her yesterday to help place some of my scholars. I didn't know if she was going to be there. When I go on the directory, from day to day, I don't know if these people will be here because they may be with a company that's being sold or run off, or they may be with corporate, and corporate has to scale down because they're not going to have the businesses to support. So the mood is very difficult from day to day, and you all probably just recently read that Liddy, who in my opinion is the best thing that ever happened to us, has announced to the board that he is resigning. And so the whole atmosphere is very uncertain. And I think trying to implement diversity initiatives during a time like this is one of the most hardest things I've ever done. We've been doing this for 2 years now, and getting the tone at the top is impossible when we're trying to save a sinking ship. Getting senior executives to focus on diversity initiatives when they're trying to make sure they don't lose policyholders is virtually impossible. So I will just say that, you know, in spite of all that's going on, and I do have a tendency to see things in a very favorable light, we still forge ahead. AIU Holdings is the new insurance company that will be spun off, that will survive. So I'm very fortunate to have gone from Chief Diversity Officer of AIG, the parent, to the surviving company. Not everyone is as fortunate, and I intend to try to roll out all of the same type of initiatives that we did for the parent company.
Thank you. Carrie, the word survivor came up during Terry's remarks, and to some extent, you know, we have a little bit of a joke at Citi, which I'll share with all of you, that every Friday we play Survivor City, and we see who got voted off the island.